I was 15 when my stepdad, Carl, ditched me at a rundown gas station off Highway 12. It was a Wednesday, late October, the kind of cold that sneaks into your bones and stays there. The clock on the gas pump blinked 6:14 p.m., half the numbers faded, but I remember it clear as day. He pulled up in his beat-up Ford pickup, engine rattling like it was about to quit, and told me to get out. No warning, no explanation, just a gravelly "this is it, kid." He reached into the cab, grabbed a grocery bag, white plastic, stretched thin, and chucked it at me. "Figure it out, you little leech," he growled, his voice thick with cigarette smoke and spite. Inside that bag? A couple of smashed soup cans, a busted pocket knife, and a sock with a hole in it. That was my inheritance. I stood there, dumb as a rock, watching the taillights of that truck fade into the dusk. The air smelled like diesel and wet leaves, and the station's neon sign buzzed overhead, one letter flickering out, open turning into ope. Carl didn't even glance back. I'd seen him mad before, plenty of times since Mom passed, but this was different. This wasn't him blowing off steam, this was him cutting me loose for good. Mom died 9 months earlier, cancer eating her up fast. She was the glue, the one who kept Carl from turning into the full-on jerk he'd always been underneath. She'd laugh at his dumb jokes, call him her big bear, and he'd soften up, at least around her. Me? I was just the kid she brought along from her first marriage, the one he tolerated because he had to. "You're a good boy, Jake," she'd tell me, brushing my hair back when I was little. "Don't let nobody tell you different." But after she was gone, Carl didn't have to pretend anymore. It started small, him moving my stuff to the garage, accidentally tossing out Mom's old recipe cards, grumbling to his poker buddies about how I was a drain on his paycheck. I heard it all through the cracked window while I tried to sleep on that lumpy cot he'd set up for me. Then came the day he pulled into that gas station. I'd been in the truck with him before, running errands or hauling scrap, but this time he didn't say a word the whole ride, just stared straight ahead, knuckles white on the wheel. I thought maybe he was taking me to some job he'd lined up, something to toughen me up. Nope. When he threw that bag, I didn't move at first. Figured it was a test, like he'd laugh and tell me to get back in. But then he leaned over, yanked the passenger door open, and barked, "Out." Now, his eyes were hard, not even meeting mine, just fixed on the dashboard. I grabbed the bag and stepped onto the gravel, and before I could say a thing, he gunned it. Tires kicked up dust, and he was gone. I stood there, a skinny kid in a hand-me-down jacket, holding that stupid bag, while a couple of truckers pumping gas pretended not to see. The station was one of those nowhere spots, middle of Ohio, surrounded by flat fields and a whole lot of nothing. The clerk inside, some guy with a mullet and a stained vest, didn't care about me loitering. Rates on the sign said $2.19 a gallon, and the attached diner charged $4.99 for a burger. I had $12.37 in my pocket, left over from mowing lawns that summer. Night was coming fast, and the wind was picking up, slicing through my thin shirt. I opened the bag again, hoping I'd miss something useful. Nope, just those dented cans, the knife that wouldn't cut butter, and that sock. No note, no nothing. Just Carl's way of saying I wasn't worth the space I took up. First night, I hid behind the dumpster out back. The ground was cold, hard dirt mixed with cigarette butts, and the dumpster stank like sour milk and grease. I pulled the sock over my hand like a glove, wrapped my arms around myself, and tried to sleep. Every time a car pulled in, headlights swept over me, and I'd freeze, thinking it was Carl coming back. He didn't. By morning, my stomach was growling something fierce, and my fingers were numb. I pried open one of those cans with a knife, took me half an hour, sliced my thumb pretty good. Inside was some kind of stew, cold and slimy, but I ate it anyway, scooping it out with my fingers. Tasted like metal and regret. I knew I couldn't stay there forever. The clerk was already giving me the side-eye through the window, probably waiting to call the cops. I had to move, find something, anything, to keep going. Mom's voice echoed in my head from years back, when we'd camp by the creek. "You're tougher than you think, Jake." Always have been. I didn't feel tough right then, just scared and pissed off. But I picked up that bag, wiped the blood off my hand, and started walking toward town, 3 miles down the road. Didn't know what I'd do when I got there, but I wasn't gonna die behind a dumpster. Not yet. That first walk into town was brutal. 3 miles doesn't sound like much, but with the wind whipping across those Ohio fields, it felt like a marathon. My sneakers, already half dead from a summer of tromping around, were soaking wet by the time I hit the edge of Millersburg. It was a small place, maybe 3,000 people, with a main street that had a hardware store, a diner, and a thrift shop that smelled like mothballs. I didn't have a plan, just a gnawing hunger and that plastic bag swinging in my hand. The cut on my thumb throbbed, crusted with dirt, but I couldn't stop to fuss over it. I needed food, shelter, something fast. The gas station stew was long gone, and my stomach was clawing at itself. I ducked into the diner, a joint called Peggy's Place, with chipped red booths and a jukebox that didn't work. The waitress, a lady with gray streaks in her hair and a name tag that said Doris, eyed me like I was trouble. I didn't blame her. I looked like hell, clothes rumpled, hair a mess, probably smelled like dumpster juice. "You got money, kid?" she asked, arms crossed. I pulled out my $12.37, laid it on the counter, 2 crumpled 5s, a couple of 1s, and a handful of coins. "Enough for coffee and toast?" I asked. She softened a bit, nodded, and slid me a mug and a plate with 2 slices, buttered light. Cost me $2.50. I ate slow, making it last, while truckers and old guys chattered around me. Doris didn't kick me out after, which was a miracle. I sat there, sipping that watery coffee, trying to figure my next move. Mom's family was scattered. Her sister lived in Kentucky, but we hadn't talked since I was a kid, and my grandparents were dead. Carl had made sure nobody local gave a damn about me after Mom passed. He'd tell folks I was troubled, a burden, while he cashed her life insurance check and drank himself stupid at the VFW. I overheard him once, through the garage wall, laughing about how he was finally free. Guess that included me. I couldn't call 911. Carl would just spin some story about me running off, and he had the house, the paperwork, the whole grieving husband act locked down. I'd seen how he played it at Mom's funeral, all teary-eyed for the neighbors, while I stood in the back, too numb to cry. No, I was on my own. But sitting there in Peggy's, I spotted a corkboard by the door, help wanted flyers, lost dog notices, junk like that. One caught my eye, odd jobs, cash paid, asked for Ray at the garage. A mechanic shop, 2 blocks over. I figured I could sweep floors or haul trash, anything beat starving. Ray turned out to be a big guy, maybe 40, with grease-stained hands and a beard that looked like steel wool. His garage was a cinder block box, packed with old cars and tools, smelling like oil and rubber. I walked in, bag in hand, and told him I saw his flyer. "You look like you slept in a ditch," he said, not mean, just stating a fact. "Yeah, something like that," I muttered. He didn't ask much, just my name, Jake, and if I could lift 50 pounds. I said yes, even though I wasn't sure, and he handed me a broom. "Clean the shop floor. $10 if you don't half-ass it." I got to work, pushing grit and bolts into piles, my arms aching by the end. He paid me cash, no questions, and told me to come back tomorrow if I wanted more. That $10 felt like a lifeline. I went back to Peggy's, got a bowl of soup, vegetable, watery but hot, for $3. Doris slipped me an extra roll, didn't charge me. "You remind me of my nephew," she said, then waved me off when I tried to thank her. Night was creeping in again, and I couldn't face another dumpster. Ray's garage had a back lot with a rusted-out van, no tires, just sitting there. I checked it, unlocked, empty except for some blankets that stank like motor oil. Good enough. I climbed in, wrapped up, and slept, the metal walls creaking every time the wind hit. Next morning, Ray caught me crawling out. I froze, thinking he'd call the cops, but he just squinted at me. "You living in there?" he asked. I nodded, ready for a lecture. Instead, he jerked his thumb toward the shop. "Get inside, make coffee. You're here, might as well be useful." He didn't say it nice, but he didn't kick me out either. I brewed a pot, strong, black, the way Mom used to make it, and he grunted approval. That day, I hauled tires, scrubbed tools, earned another $15. Ray wasn't chatty, but he didn't pry, and that suited me fine. Days turned into a week. I'd work for Ray, eat at Peggy's, sleep in the van. Doris started sneaking me leftovers, half a sandwich, some fries, saying it'd just get thrown out anyway. Ray paid me daily, $10 to $20 depending on the job, and I stashed every penny in my sock, the one Carl gave me, folded tight. I washed up in the garage sink, using a rag and bar soap, keeping my head down. Nobody asked where I came from, and I didn't tell. But every night, lying in that van, I'd think about Carl, him in Mom's house, drinking her money away, probably laughing about how he ditched me. Anger didn't hit me hot and fast, it settled in slow, cold, like ice in my chest. I wasn't just gonna survive this. I was gonna make him regret it. Someday, somehow, I'd show him what this leech could do. A month into crashing in that van behind Ray's garage, I started feeling like I might actually pull through. It wasn't pretty, sleeping on those oily blankets, washing my pits in a sink with water so cold it stung, but I had a routine. Wake up at 6 a.m., brew coffee for Ray, work all day hauling parts or sweeping up, then hit Peggy's for whatever I could afford. I'd saved up $127 by then, every bill and coin crammed into that sock, hidden under the van's rusty floor mat. It wasn't much, but it was mine, earned with my own hands. Carl couldn't touch it. Ray kept me busy. He wasn't the warm and fuzzy type, grunted more than he talked, but he'd toss me jobs like I was part of the shop. One day, he had me help him pull an engine block out of a '98 Chevy. My arms were screaming by the end, but he slapped $25 in my hand and said, "Not bad, kid." Coming from him, that was damn near a medal. He never asked why I was living in his junkyard van, and I never brought it up. Think he figured I'd bolt if he pushed, and maybe he was right. Peggy's became my second home. Doris was a saint, slipping me extra food, never making a fuss about it. One night, she handed me a paper sack with a whole chicken leg and mashed potatoes, saying, "Cook made too much." Bull, she'd saved it for me. I'd sit in that booth, eating slow, watching folks come and go. Truckers griping about fuel prices, old-timers swapping stories about the steel mill that shut down in '89. I kept quiet, listening, picking up scraps of how the world worked. Mom used to say, "Ears open, mouth shut. That's how you learn, Jake." She was right. Then came the day everything shifted. It was mid-November, sky gray as a wet rag. when Ray called me over after closing. "You're decent with your hands," he said, wiping grease off a wrench. "Ever think about fixing stuff, not just moving it?" I shrugged. Hadn't thought much past not starving. He pointed to a beat-up motorcycle in the corner, some old Kawasaki with a busted chain and a flat tire. "Customer ditched it. No title, no money to fix it. It's yours if you can get it running." I stared at him, waiting for the catch. "Ain't charity," he added. "You use my tools, my space, but you're on your own. Sink or swim." That bike was my ticket. I didn't know squat about engines, but I'd watched Ray enough to fake it. Nights after work, I'd hunker down in the garage, poring over a repair manual he'd forgotten on the bench. First step was the tire. Patched it with a kit I bought for $5 at the hardware store. Chain was trickier. Took me 3 days to figure out how to link it right. Hands black with grease, knuckles scraped raw. Ray'd walk by, glance over, grunt something like, "Wrong bolt," then keep moving. He wasn't going to hold my hand, but he didn't let me fail either. By early December, that Kawasaki purred. Well, coughed, but it ran. I'd ride it around the lot, feeling the rumble under me, wind cutting through my jacket. First time I took it out, I damn near crashed into a dumpster, but I got the hang of it. Ray watched from the shop door, arms crossed, and when I pulled back in, he tossed me a key. "Lock the gate when you're done," he said. That was it. No big speech, just trust. Hit me harder than I expected. Money was still tight, but the bike changed things. I started running errands for folks, picking up parts for Ray, grabbing smokes for the guys at Peggy's. Charged a couple bucks a trip, pocketed $30 that first week. Doors caught me counting cash one night and said, "You're a hustler, Jake. Good for you." Made me grin, first time in months. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was building something, even if it was small. Christmas rolled around, and Millersburg got quiet. Shops closed early, snow dusted the streets, and I spent the day in the van, eating a turkey sandwich Doris had slipped me. Thought about Mom, her making cocoa on Christmas Eve, humming carols while Carl bitched about the electric bill. Then I thought about him, probably parked in her recliner, cracking a beer, not giving a damn where I was. That ice in my chest got colder. I pulled out the sock, counted my stash, $1.92 now. Not enough to touch him, not yet, but it was a start. New Year's Eve, Ray dropped the bomb. "Got a buddy in Canton, runs a salvage yard," he said, lighting a cigarette. "Needs a runner, kid with a bike, no questions asked. Pays better than this dump. You in?" Canton was 40 miles north, a bigger town, rougher too. I didn't hesitate. "Yeah, I'm in." He nodded, flicked ash. "Leave next week. Crash here till then." I thanked him, but he waved it off. "Don't get soft on me, kid." That night, I sat on the bike, engine off, staring at the stars through the garage window. Mom's voice came back. "You're tougher than you think." Maybe I was. Carl thought he'd broken me, left me for dead at that gas station. But I had a bike, a job, a little cash, and a plan starting to form. He'd see me again, years down the road, and I'd make sure he choked on that leech line. For now, I'd ride to Canton, keep grinding, keep growing. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Canton hit me like a freight train. I rolled in on that Kawasaki the second week of January, snow flurry sticking to my jacket, the city sprawling out in gray and rust. It wasn't Millersburg's sleepy streets. This place had noise, edge, a pulse. Ray's buddy, Vince, ran a salvage yard on the east side, a maze of wrecked cars and scrap metal surrounded by a chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. He was a wiry guy, late 50s, with a voice like sandpaper and a handshake that could crush walnuts. "Ray says you're a worker," he rasped, sizing me up. Don't prove him wrong. The gig was simple. Ride the bike, deliver parts, pick up cash, keep my mouth shut. Vince didn't care about licenses or IDs, just results. First day, he handed me a greasy envelope and an address scribbled on a napkin. "Drop this off. Bring back what they give you. $50 if you're back by noon." I tore through icy streets, weaving past potholes, heart pounding not from the cold, but from the weight of it. This wasn't sweeping floors. This was real. I made the drop, a shady auto shop with guys who didn't smile, got a wad of bills in return, and hauled ass back. Vince counted it, nodded, slid me the $50. "Not bad, kid." I found a room to rent off Craigslist, $200 a month, a closet-sized space and a house full of guys who smelled like weed and cheap beer. Bed was a mattress on the floor, walls thin enough to hear the neighbor snoring, but it beat the van. I'd ride for Vince all day, dodging cops and cracked-out pedestrians, then crash hard at night. Pay was good, $50 to $100 a run, depending on the distance. By spring, I had $1,200 saved, stuffed in a coffee can under my bed. Felt like a king, even if I was still eating ramen and day-old bread. Vince taught me more than just routes. He'd lean on a busted fender, smoking, and drop lessons. "Cash is king, Jake. Banks screw you, cops watch you, but cash don't talk." He showed me how to spot a hustle, guys who'd short you, clients who'd stiff you. I learned fast. One time, a chop shop tried to hand me $200 less than agreed. I stood there, 15 years old, staring down a dude twice my size, and said, "Vince, don't play that." He grumbled, paid up. Word got around. I wasn't soft. Nights, I'd tinker with the bike, keeping it sharp. Bought a cheap toolkit with my first big payout, Learned to swap spark plugs, adjust the carburetor. Mom's voice stuck with me. Work smart, Jake, not just hard. I started reading too. Library was free, and I'd grab books on engines, business, anything useful. Carl crept into my head less, but when he did, it was venom. Him in Mom's house, probably selling her stuff, living fat while I dodged sketchy deals in Canton. I'd grip the handlebars tighter, promising myself he'd pay. Summer hit, and Vince upped the stakes. Got a side job, he said one muggy afternoon. Moving some inventory. Pays triple. You in? I knew it wasn't legal, probably hot parts, maybe worse, but $300 a run was too good to pass. I nodded. First trip, I hauled a duffel bag to a warehouse 20 miles out. Handed it off to a guy with a neck tattoo. Got a thick envelope back. Didn't look inside, just rode. Vince grinned when I returned. You're a natural, kid. I didn't feel proud, just alive. By fall, I had $4,000 stashed. Bought a used leather jacket, real boots, started looking less like a runaway. But Canton was rough, cops raided a drop spot one night. Nearly nabbed me. Vince shrugged it off, part of the game. I wasn't so sure. Started thinking bigger, maybe a legit gig, something to build on. Mom's words again, you're tougher than you think. I was 16 now, not that scared kid Carl dumped. Whatever came next, I'd handle it. And Carl? His time was coming. Winter 2016, I turned 17 and decided Canton's underbelly wasn't my forever. Vince's jobs were cash-heavy, but the close calls piled up, cops circling, shady guys eyeing my bike like it was theirs. I'd saved $7,500, enough to rethink my play. One night, after dodging a patrol car by cutting through an alley, I sat in my room, coffee can open, counting bills. I wasn't going to end up in a cell or a ditch, not for Vince, not for anyone. Time to go straight, or at least straighter. I told Vince I was out. He didn't blink, just lit a cigarette and said, you'll be back. Kids like you always are. I didn't argue, just handed over the last envelope and walked. Took the bike north to Akron, 25 miles away, chasing a lead from a library book about trade schools. Found one, Summit Tech, offering mechanic courses, cheap if you tested in. I aced the entry exam, thanks to Ray's shop time and my own tinkering. Tuition was $2,000 for the year. I paid cash, moved into a $300 a month basement room near campus. No more runs, no more duffels, just me, a toolbox, and a shot. School was a grind, but good. Teachers were ex-gearheads, guys who'd rebuilt engines in garages like Ray's. I soaked it up, wiring, transmissions, diagnostics. Made a buddy, Tim, a lanky kid with a stutter who knew diesels cold. We'd study late, splitting cheap pizza, him joking I'd be the next H. Henry Ford. I laughed, but it stuck. By summer, I had a certificate and a part-time gig at a tire shop, $12 an hour, legal money. Felt clean, like I was washing Canton off me. Savings grew slow, $9,000 by fall, but steady. Tim's uncle owned a scrap lot and let us fix up junkers on the side. We buy a clunker for $200, patch it, sell it for $800. Split the profit, reinvested. I learned to haggle, spot value, turn rust into cash. Mom's voice rang. Work smart. I was. Nights, I'd ride the Kawasaki, wind in my face, feeling free. Carl faded to a dull ache, but I still saw him sprawled in Mom's kitchen, sipping her savings. I'd get him, not with fists, but with something sharper. Spring 2018, I got a break. Tire shop boss, Mr. Grady, liked my work, offered me full-time, $18 an hour, plus a chance to lease a corner of his lot. Fix your own cars, kid. Keep what you make. I jumped on it. Used $3,000 to buy tools, a lift. Started small, oil changes, brake jobs. Word spread, customers came. By winter, I was clearing $1,500 a month after rent. Tim joined me, part-time, and we named it J&T Repairs. Felt real, like I'd built a foundation Carl couldn't kick over. Then, a curveball. Late 2019, I got a letter, handwritten, postmarked from Millersburg. Carl's scrawl. Jake, I'm sorry. Need to talk. Call me. Number at the bottom. I stared at it, gut twisting. Sorry? After 3 years? I didn't call, just shoved it in a drawer. But it gnawed at me. What did he want? Money? Forgiveness? I'd find out, my way, when I was ready. For now, I had a shop, a life, and a plan growing roots. He'd wait. By 2021, J&T Repairs was humming. I was 20, and the shop wasn't just a corner anymore. Grady retired, sold me the whole place for $50,000, cash I'd scraped together with loans and hustle. Tim was full-time now, and we hired a kid, Diego, to handle oil changes. Revenue hit $5,000 a month, profit half that after bills. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment. Real walls, hot water, no roommates farting through the night. Bike got an upgrade too, traded the Kawasaki for a Harley. Used but solid. Felt like a man, not a runaway. I dug into Carl's life by then. Library skills from Canton paid off, public records, online trails. He'd sold Mom's house in 17, pocketed $180,000, moved to a trailer park outside Columbus. Blew the cash fast, bar tabs, a truck he totaled drunk, gambling debts. Now he was broke, living off disability checks, whining to anyone who'd listen. That letter wasn't a one-off. He'd sent 2 more, each needier. Jake, I'm sick. Help me out. I didn't bite. He'd left me with nothing. I owed him less. Idea hit me late 2022, over beers with Tim. Buy his debt, Tim said, half joking. Own him. Wasn't a joke to me. I'd learned about debt markets from a customer, a finance guy who liked my work. Carl's credit was trashed, cards maxed, loans defaulted. I spent $2,000 through a broker, bought $10,000 of his debt for pennies. Didn't collect, just held it, let it sit. Then I found his trailer lease, 90 days late, landlord itching to evict. Offered $5,000 to take it off his hands, cash. Deal closed January 2023. I own Carl's home, his bills, his mess. March 2024, I drove to Columbus, Harley rumbling, a folder of papers in my saddlebag. Trailer park was a dump, rusted roofs, dogs barking, trash everywhere. Carl's place was worse. Peeling siding, broken steps, a lawn chair tipped over. I knocked, heart steady. He opened the door, older, fatter, eyes bloodshot. Took him a second to clock me. Jake, he croaked, voice shaky. That you? I didn't smile. Yeah, it's me. Stepped inside, place reeked of stale beer and regret. He babbled. Sorry this, sorry that, cancer eating his liver, no money for meds. I let him talk, then dropped the folder on his table. Debt contracts, lease transfer, all mine. You're out in 30 days, I said. Find somewhere else. His jaw dropped, face red. You can't. I'm your family. I laughed, cold. Family don't ditch a kid at a gas station. He begged, tears streaking his cheeks. I messed up, Jake. Please. I pulled a grocery bag from my jacket. Same white plastic he'd given me, tossed it at him. Inside, 2 dented cans, a cracked flashlight, a rack. Figure it out, I said, echoing him. Walked out, his sobs fading behind me. Didn't look back. April 9th, 2025, today. I'm 23, sitting in my shop office, coffee brewing, sun cutting through the blinds. J&T's thriving, 3 bays, 5 employees, $20,000 a month coming in. I've got a house now, small but mine, mortgage paid on time. Harley's parked out front, gleaming. Carl's gone, evicted last year, vanished after. Heard he's crashing with a cousin, maybe dead. Don't care. That bag was my goodbye. Phone buzzed last week, text from an unknown number. Jake, it's Carl. I'm sorry. Can we meet? Didn't reply. Stared at it, then deleted it. Mom's voice floats in. You're tougher than you think. She was right. I built this from nothing, no handouts, no stepdad. Anger's faded, not gone, just quiet. Shop bell dings, customers here. I stand, stretch, head out. Life's mine now, not his. That's enough.